Good evening, everyone. I am Jeff Zamora, the police chief here in Fort Collins, and I would like to welcome you all to our 28th annual awards ceremony. 28 years we've been doing this, and that is amazing. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but before we do, I'd like to ask everyone to rise for the presentation of colors. We're going to remain standing then for the singing of the national anthem by Officer Sarah Click, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. But right now, we'll present the colors, please.
Set. Hold. On. Forward. March.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Doing the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please have a seat. Thank you very much. Could we give a round of applause for our honor guard and also for that rendition by Officer Sarah Cliff? I really wanted to say thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to remind everyone that tonight is a celebration. Tonight is meant to be fun. Our loved ones, our co-workers, members of the community are being recognized for amazing work, and so please, it's meant to be a good time. If someone you love or know or work with or all the above is getting an award, please feel free to make your way up, take a picture. But again, sometimes these can come across very too planned, too stoic, and I want to make sure that we recognize that tonight is just a great night to be here in Fort Collins, to be a member or a community member of Fort Collins Police Services. So, with our busy lives, both personally and professionally, taking time to come together to say thank you is something that we don't do enough of. Taking the time to tell someone that they made a difference is something that we don't do enough of. And taking the time and coming together to say that we are a better police department and we are a better community because of the service you provided, we don't do enough of. And so tonight, again, is that night where we are doing this. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight to show your support and appreciation to officers and the community our professional staff. It really means a lot to us that it was told that we have an absolute packed house. So that is great. But we will. Tom DeMint is off tonight. I see him with a face full of nachos, so he will not be shutting us down, the fire chief. So we can let more people come in. I'd like to take a moment to recognize several people who are here in the office. Again, here in the audience, friends and family of the people being recognized tonight, members of Four Counts Police Service, obviously. But I want to mention a few people that are on the stage here with me. Starting on your left will be Deputy Chief Greg Yater, Assistant Chief John Fayen, Assistant Chief Tim Duran, Assistant Chief Kevin Cronin, and Director Rena Martinez. So I want to thank them all. And assisting me on stage tonight, bringing up the different awards from time to time, are going to be Lieutenant Christy Valesky and Sergeant Joel Tower. So I want to say thank you very much. Also with us tonight are a variety of elected officials and members from around the county and federal partners that we have. First, I want to say thank you so much for being here, Mayor Wade Troxel. So thank you for being here, Mayor. And we have a couple of council members. I see Susan Gutowski and Julie Pinatero, correct? Thank you for being here tonight. Okay. Our city manager will be coming in. I know he's texted me, left a meeting a little bit ago and is making his way here. But also with us tonight is Deputy City Manager Kelly Dimartino. Thank you for being here tonight, Kelly. And again, I mentioned Chief Tom DeMint. Thank you so much for Fire Chief Tom DeMint being here. And Chief HR, Chief of Human Resources with us is Teresa Roach. Thank you so much for being here, Teresa. And as we were looking around, we scribbled a bunch of other names as well that we weren't sure who was coming or not, but I did see that Todd Sanstead from the FBI is here with us tonight, so thank you for being here. I know we have an award coming up. I see District Attorney Cliff Riedel, who will be here with many members of his staff. Thank you. And a former member of Four Counts Police Services, and now the interim Chief of Police, Russ Reed. So thanks for coming here tonight, Russ. Appreciate it. And I know the sheriff was down at the state capitol, and we were told that the Captains Palmer and Loberg were going to be here as well. So if they're here, and they are. So thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. Appreciate it. And it's always dangerous to start knocking down names when you see people walking in, because I'm sure we miss people. So throughout the night, we might be adding some others. But truly, tonight, everyone is a special VIP because what we're doing tonight is meaningful. It makes a difference. And it's something we don't do enough of, to actually take a moment, pause, reflect, be present, and just say, wow, what great work goes on in this community on a daily basis. Sometimes by officers, sometimes by our professional staff, sometimes by citizens who find themselves in a heroic situation and they step forward, sometimes by district attorneys or our neighboring police agencies. There's just so many opportunities for people to get involved, and they do around here routinely. And so that is really exciting. So in addition to recognizing our employees and affiliates, we also want to take a moment to recognize the engagement and community involvement this agency has been in the past year. There were so many opportunities that we took to get involved with the community, and we're very proud of that. And we believe that by continuing to be involved in the community, continue to be proactive, and going out when people aren't necessarily calling 911 or asking that the police respond, show up, form relationships, solve problems before they become serious problems where somebody needs to call the police. And I'm just so proud of the day in, day out what people do on a daily basis to get involved in this community. There's a bunch here I'm going to go through rather quickly, but there was a fundraiser at the beginning, Dancing with First Responders. People who are here tonight, I know Britta Clay, Laura Knutson, Jim Leonard, Brandy Nada, Kelsey Score, Laura Wetsby, all got on the dance floor. We've done some programming on a local radio station, started a program called Chief Chat, and many here in the audience here tonight have been on that. Work very hard every day to make sure our community is safer and more inclusive, and we are continuing to have times where we get together, some pretty tough times where people go out and they do some visiting, and one of them that was mentioned is visiting sick children at a local hospital through Cops Fighting Cancer and raising money for Special Olympics. Things that, again, our officers and professional staff get involved in routinely. The walk and talks that we're involved in. Tip a Cop, which again helps with Special Olympics. There's just so many times. And lastly, I want to thank our awards committee for making tonight possible. I'm just going to read their names, And if you're in the audience, could you please stand up, just be recognized? Tonight wouldn't be possible. This is just a beautiful ceremony that we have here tonight. The food is amazing, and I really just want to say thank you to, so if I read your name, we'll hold our applause till the end, but if you could please stand up. Lieutenant Christy Valesky, Brandy Kristen, Morgan Diavis. Did I say something different? She was already standing. I'm probably going to mess up some names, so I apologize if I do. Matt Erdman, Paul Harding, Neal Haissam, Tessa Jacobson, Terry Murphy, Brandy Nauta, Joel Tower, and Kelly Valdez. This is the 4th year we're having this in Timberline Church, and somebody made a joke that we're going to have to either go into another room or someplace different because, again, we are at capacity. But could we please give a round of applause to those people? Amazing. And I'm going to go through and just recognize the employees who have had milestones as well. People have had milestones awards from 5, 10, we got 20, 25, 30 years. And so we will obviously wait until the end to show our appreciation. But just because, again, in this career, to be a member of such an amazing organization, I think we do need to do more often where we say thank you for the 5 years, thank you for the 10 years. Ian Alcorn, 5 years. Adam Brungis, Justin Butler, Matt Chernak, Chris Clow, Andy Ferraro, Mike Howard, Sarah Click, who sang for us a little bit ago, Information Services Director Rena Martinez, Mike Natalzia, Marvin Sanchez, Bev Smith, Tony Sparks, Brittany Springer, Kelly Valdez, and Austin Vigil all celebrated 5 years of service. So thank you very much for your service. The 10-year list is Dalton Brown, Dan Callahan, Mark Litnovich, Shane Kundle, Justin Gallimore, Josh Goldsmith, Laura Knutson, Kobe Northern, Nick Rogers, Marty Shaw, Chris Wagner, and Carol Workman. Thank you for your 10 years of service, everyone. The 15 years is Leah Hess, Amy Huff, and Andy Leslie. All have celebrated 15 years. Thank you, guys. And the 20 years, Greg Beaumont, Mike Boward, Kevin Cronin, Deb Dotson, Lori Frank, Sean Giddings, Jim Leonards, Adam McCambridge, Brandy Nauta, Rondine Nelson, Adam Rulin, Boyd Slipper, Kelly Weaver, and Greg Yeager, all celebrating 20 years. Thanks, everyone. And the list gets shorter. 25 years is Kim Cochran, Brian Ivers, and Wanda Soros. Thank you for your 25 years. And the final list are 2 people who are celebrating 30 years. I'd like to say congratulations to Lieutenant Dan Murphy and Sergeant Joel Tower, 30 years of service. So this year, the awards board rolled out a new recognition program called High Caliber Culture. It is a program that was created to better recognize employees for their outstanding performance and other valuable contributions. It seeks to reward all employees who are recognized by their coworkers and not just one each month as we had done previously. A total of 69 employees were recognized this year for their actions ranging from helping someone in the community obtain an affordable wheelchair to working on a better software program used by training officers. I really want to say thank you to all of them who, again, more than 60 people were put in for this. See, in the past, multiple examples of great work were put in. And so someone would be put in for potentially saving a life. Someone would be put in for going above and beyond. At this last one, we had somebody outside of school and see that the parents were dropping off their child and had very bald tires, and winter was coming in, and the officer went to a tire store and bought a set of tires and wanted to anonymously give them to the family. And I only knew about it because I was contacted to tell me that this happened. And so an officer was given an award for that. Again, didn't want the award, and we didn't expose how we found out about it, but it's just that kind of work goes on daily. And so what we have is great work competing against other great work. And Neal Haissam, who I think is in the audience here tonight, came up with the idea through Jared and our awards committee. It said, why are we having great work compete against each other? Why not just recognize great work? And so we turned it into our High Caliber Culture Awards. And every month we recognize the list of people who went above and beyond. And what I always say, it's great to have a chest full of medals and the heroic work and the amazing work that's done routinely. But it also takes someone to put pen to paper, someone who sees great work going on, someone who sees an officer or a member of our professional staff just daily, just doing great work, and it takes time to actually fill out that nomination form. So behind every award, there's somebody who saw it, who took the time to write it down, and who took the time. So as much as we honor the people who are given awards, I also want to say thank you in High Caliber Culture for those 69 different awards that were given out. There were 69 people, again, who put pen to paper to say, nice job. So I'd like to recognize all of them as well. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to start having some people come up on the stage. So when we have people come up and we're doing the awards, if you could come up on this side, I think we're going to be standing in front of here, and there's a photographer nearby, and then we'll exit off of this way. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize a dedicated group of volunteers, our police explorers and auxiliaries. So if the explorers and auxiliaries can start making their way up over here. They've been given the award at something we had inside the police department just recently, but we still want to take a moment to recognize them. So Tatiana Abdenor, Lucas Barrett, Elio Degnan, Kaylin Hawkins, Kayla Helzer, Kaylee Johnson, Ansley Maniak, Nathan Moeller, Sean Morgan, Haley Morris, Landon Morris, Leo Reyna, and also our auxiliary sergeant, Chris Franklin. Please join me on stage over here. In 2020, our volunteers, which is the police explorers, served approximately 4,000 hours out in the community. They participated in events like Santa Cops, New West Fest, assisted our records department, our dispatchers, and the forensics team. Also, our auxiliary unit, a team with 7 people, worked over 1,300 hours. They did a lot of traffic control. For those who were at the recent Martin Luther King parade, and at each one of those intersections, it seemed we had many of our volunteers out there. We couldn't put on many of the things that we do put on without their help. Their duties included, again, the traffic control. They did downtown foot patrol. They worked on liquor and marijuana enforcement, assistance with sex offender registration, and working with our community service officers. Without the help of these explorers and auxiliary, our agency would not be able to provide the level of service that we do. The 12 explorers and auxiliary sergeant who joined me on stage were recognized, again, recently, but we wanted to take a moment for all of you to see their faces, and if you see them around, please thank them, because, again, we wouldn't be who we are today without you and without the assistance we get. So thank you all very much. We're going to do a citizen award now, and would Tony Espinoza please come up on stage? Tony? And I'm going to read the awards as people are coming up. As some of you know, Fort Collins Police Services has a Spanish team that assists not only with translation, but also engages community members who are Spanish-speaking and make it sure they feel supported by our agency. Earlier this year, Tony Espinoza, a now retired Spanish teacher from Poudre High School, allowed our Spanish team to attend high school level Spanish classes. Mr. Espinosa developed a plan for the team to come to the Poudre High School every Monday during the school year. Team members were given the same homework assignments as the students, which were presented in a group discussion format with team members and high school students from the class. This opportunity not only allowed for a Spanish learning environment, but also the opportunity for community engagement with our students. Anytime we can find an opportunity for officers or, again, members of our professional staff to get out with the community and learn together, I think it's just so powerful. Mr. Espinosa's mindful lesson plans, and commitment to others was demonstrated continuously throughout the year. Sir, for your passion, dedication, and assistance to our agency and community, I am pleased to present you with the Meritorious Service Citation. Nope, you can come right down this way. Thank you. Oh, there she is. Okay. Will Arrow Angels board members Bill and Linda Elliott please come on stage? In June, a resident of Texas was severely assaulted and kidnapped by her boyfriend while they were visiting Fort Collins. After this, he drove her to New Mexico, where she was rescued by the police. Because of her injuries and fragile health, she could not travel by car or commercial airline back home to be hospitalized in New Mexico. She desperately wanted to go home to Texas to recover. While investigating the case, Detective and now Sergeant Jason Curtis recognized and contacted Mark Pastal, the founder and president of Arrow Angel. Arrow Angel is a charity that provides free transportation primarily to children traveling to distant, life-saving medical care. Flights are provided to those who have no other safe travel options. Without hesitation, Mark agreed to provide a private jet and pilot to fly the victim home where they could recover more comfortably where they were close to their family. Although Mark could not be with us at the ceremony today, for his service to the victim and many others, I'm pleased to present the Meritorious Service Citation to Bill and Linda on his behalf. Congratulations. Victim advocate Jim Fanning, can you please join me on stage? Here he comes. On April 11th, Fort Collins police were dispatched to assist rescue personnel with a possible overdose. A young female was pronounced deceased at the scene, and detectives began taking over the investigation. While detectives were waiting for a search warrant to be signed, the parents of the deceased female arrived on scene. They had been notified inappropriately by an unknown person not related to the agency and were obviously very upset. They were demanding to go inside to identify their daughter, leading to a potential for confrontation with the officers who were on scene. Thankfully, victim advocate Jim Fanning arrived and began consoling the mother. He sat with her on the front residence for 45 minutes, comforting her and walking through what the painful process was going to be like. As Jim was helping her, other officers calmed the father as well while answering his questions. Jim eventually convinced both the mother and the father it would be most beneficial to their well-being and to the investigation that they not be at the scene. He went with them to their home to offer support and help them as they notified other family members. Jim is a very valuable volunteer to our agency, and his actions likely prevented unnecessary confrontation with officers and obviously upset family members. Jim, for your actions, I am pleased to present you with the Meritorious Service Citation. Would the Second Assistant DA, Emily Humphrey, please join me on stage? Second Assistant DA for Laramie County, Emily Humphrey, had become increasingly concerned about the number of juvenile gun-related deaths in our area. In October of 2018, she organized a coalition of more than 20 local organizations to help impact this problem. The group began meeting at the district attorney's office and developed a multi-tiered gun safety awareness campaign that launched in the summer of 2019. The campaign continues to deliver information in a nonpartisan, fact-based, safety-focused manner to all residents in our area. The group created a website, professionally produced a video, handout materials, and is working toward developing additional curriculum for service providers who encounter gun-involved youth in the criminal justice restoration programs. In late 2019, the Attorney General's office recognized these efforts as unique, a positive approach to impact a tragic issue that affects many communities. This innovative collaboration wouldn't be easy or even possible without Emily's initial idea and her persistent facilitation of meeting, outreach efforts, and support for the program. For her efforts, I'm going to be giving her the Meritorious Service Citation. Earlier, I heard her talk a little bit about this program, and she had been a part of a couple incidents where juveniles were getting their hands on guns and losing their lives, and family members were torn apart. And so to see that as an attorney and realize I can do something about it, coming up with this idea, putting together the partners, and having a plan to actually make a difference is truly something that deserves attention and this award. Thank you, Emily. Jason Shrivener, please join me on stage. On October 7th, Officer Mike McGregor was on foot pursuit with one of Laramie County's most wanted suspects. The suspect ran past Fast Track Auto Repair, owned by Jason. Shortly after, Jason and his employees saw Officer McGregor run past. The suspect then circled around and entered the business in an attempt to hide, but was told to leave. As the suspect left, he hid between a parked vehicle and the building where he could watch for responding officers. Officer McGregor could not see the suspect, so he held a perimeter around the area. At this time, Jason was behind the suspect and tried to get Officer McGregor's attention. It looked like the suspect was about to run again, so Jason took action. He grabbed the suspect and held him in a headlock until the officers could take control and get the suspect in custody. Not always recommended, but definitely appreciated. And it is for these actions I am pleased to present you with the Distinguished Service Commendation. Will Brooke Erickson and Zachary Bollinger please join me on stage? Here they come. On June 3rd, 2019, a young man attempted suicide by cutting his wrist. The cut was so deep that it cut an artery. Zach Bollinger, a neighbor of the man, quickly called 911 while Brooke Erickson and Stephanie, a friend of the man, began applying a makeshift tourniquet to try to stop the bleeding. Brooke then ran to her car and grabbed a combat application tourniquet that she had in her vehicle. Brooke and Stephen then continued holding pressure on the wound while Zachary flagged down arriving officers and the medical personnel. Their quick thinking and selfless action and the fact that they even got involved likely saved this man's life. Brooke and Zachary, for your actions, I am pleased to present you with the Distinguished Service Commendation. And Stephen could not be at the ceremony tonight, so we will get him his award. But congratulations to the two of you. Would Marilyn Shimonoseki, she's not able to attend today, but I'm just going to quickly read her story. April 14th, 2019, Marilyn was out for a walk with her dog when she noticed a male sitting on the sidewalk near an open door of a neighboring apartment. Marilyn walked over to check on the male, who had a pipe in his hand and appeared to be passed out. She tried to wake the male, but got no response and noticed he was very cold to the touch. Marilyn then checked for a pulse and didn't find one. She called 911 and then immediately began CPR. She continued her life-saving efforts until paramedics arrived. The paramedics were able to revive the man, who appeared to have overdosed. Marilyn could have easily just walked by the male without calling 911, thought, it's not my business, not getting involved, and not checked on him. But instead she played, obviously, a huge part in saving this man's life. Without her stepping in, the man may not have been found until it was too late. Again, Marilyn is not here, but could we please recognize her for getting involved? Thank you very much. Could I please have Margaret Hill please come on stage? And as Margaret is making her way on here, on the afternoon of April 5th, officers were dispatched to the report of a stabbing. It was reported that two neighbors were in a verbal altercation that escalated to one neighbor stabbing the other. While the incident was occurring, Margaret took notice and stopped to assist the victim, who had already been stabbed, with restraining the suspect and gaining possession of the knife. After officers arrived on the scene and began first aid of the victim, Margaret stayed with him to provide further assistance. She also provided valuable witness information to officers that assisted in the investigation of the incident, leading to the suspect's arrest. Margaret, for your courage and selflessness, I'm pleased to present you with the Distinguished Service Commendation. Is Katie Abeda here? And can you please join me on stage? On August 31st, 2013, Fort Collins Police received a report of a woman screaming in the area in West Fort Collins. When officers arrived, they located a woman who was beaten and bound with red duct tape around her face and hands. She was transported to the hospital with serious injuries. 4 years later, officers received a DNA hit indicating a suspect was identified in her case. The suspect was arrested and convicted of the crimes he committed against her. During the years leading up to the suspect's arrest, the victim in the case attended the Sexual Assault Victims Advocacy, SAVA, for ongoing assistance with therapy. It was during her interactions with SAVA that she met Katie, the Laramie County Director of Victim Advocacy and Outreach at the center. Katie tirelessly and compassionately stood by the victim's side as she recovered from the atrocities she suffered. She attended every meeting with the victim and that the victim had with the district attorney's office and officers. She connected her to resources within the community for support. Katie also took the entire 2.5 weeks off of work during the time the trial was scheduled to continue to support the victim through the criminal justice process and attended court every day during those weeks. Katie's strength and support for the victim during this time was inspiring and something that those who witnessed will likely never forget. Her authentic and selfless interest in the success of the victim's case was a measure of service we should all strive to achieve and was nothing short of amazing. Katie, for your compassion and dedication to others, I am pleased to present you with the Distinguished Service Commendation. Now, I would ask Assistant Chief Tim Duran to come to the stage to provide awards to the Special Operations Division.
Will Officer Jim Lendertz please come up on stage? Officer Jim Lendertz is the marijuana enforcement officer for our agency. He is the founder of this position and has held it for the past 4 years. During his tenure, the regulation, licensing, and enforcement of medical and recreational marijuana in Colorado has undergone historic changes. These changes have created unique and uncertain circumstances for law enforcement officers. Officer Lendertz chose to tackle these challenges with a zest for learning and a passion for relationships, which have defined him as one of Colorado's leading law enforcement experts on marijuana. His expertise, work ethic, attention to detail, and willingness to take an open-minded approach to problem solving have greatly benefited our agency, community, and profession. He goes above and beyond to make himself available for the numerous community groups who have questions about marijuana and provides presentations on a wide range of topics. Recently, Officer Lendertz took the initiative to work with the Laramie County District Attorney's Office to secure grant funding for multiple black market marijuana investigations. He took this on essentially as a one-person task force, in addition to his regular duties, and brought in other resources as needed. The results of his efforts were the service of multiple search warrants and the seizure of 420 marijuana plants, 24 pounds of processed marijuana, 80 ounces of marijuana concentrate, 10 guns, and approximately $110,000 in cash. Numerous felony charges were filed as a result. For his work that exemplifies the vision, mission, and values of the agency, I am pleased to present Officer Lendertz with the Community to Excellence Award. Will Officers Kyle Duncan and Nick Rogers please come up on stage? Over the past several years, Officer Kyle Duncan and Nick Rogers have been assigned to the District 1 team, which operates within the downtown Fort Collins area. Over these years, they have significantly distinguished themselves through their tenacity, work ethic, problem-solving skills, and compassion. They have recognized their position offers them a unique opportunity to gather intelligence and solve crimes, which happen not only downtown, but all over the city. Just a few examples of their work include the following: finding stolen credit cards on a suspect taken into custody on a warrant, which resulted in the closing of an identity theft case, and recognizing, identifying, and arresting a suspect who had burglarized a veterinarian clinic in the Midtown area. Officer Duncan was recently recognized by the municipal court for his work with a transient female who was working to recover from addiction. He recommended her to a program and regularly checked in with her to encourage her to stay sober. She identified the accountability and encouragement she received from Officer Duncan as one of the primary reasons she was able to pursue recovery. Officer Rogers recently observed a mentally ill female transient who was in pain and complaining about not having any socks to wear. Officer Rogers procured a pair of socks for her, tracked her down, and gave them to her so she could walk and seek basic services. Officer Rogers and Officer Duncan were also both recognized by Sergeant Scott Crumbaker for their work on gathering intelligence from a group of transients, leading to the location and arrest of a wanted subject who is a sexually violent predator. These officers exemplify the mission, vision, and values of our agency in a way that resonates with the community. For this, I am pleased to present each of you with the Community to Excellence Award. Will Sergeant Laura Lunsford and the members of the School Resource Officer Unit please come up on stage? Our School Resource Officer Unit covers 38 schools with approximately 28,000 students, and they wear many different hats in this role, to include teacher, informal counselor, and law enforcement officer. In their teaching capacity, our SROs have successfully trained over 3,700 Poudre School District employees on responding to school violence. This progressive training starts with lecture and tabletop scenarios and builds to stimulus-based examples. Staff then practice lockdown drills, allowing them to impart this knowledge to students. The SRO unit played an integral part in these trainings by providing feedback on performance and working to ensure we stay in line with national standards. This has been a huge undertaking, and the SRO team really rose to the challenge. While SROs spend a large portion of their day teaching and counseling, their number one priority and goal is to ensure the safety of students and staff. Sadly, our society is plagued with threats of violence, and our local schools are not immune. For their dedication to our community, our schools, and our students, I am proud to present the SRO unit with the Police Chief's Unit Commendation. Will Lieutenant Dan Murphy and the members of the SWAT team please come up on stage? 2019 was the Fort Collins Police SWAT team's busiest year on record since the team was formed in the 1970s. The team had 87 tactical missions this year, including several high-risk warrants and barricade incidents. To put things in perspective, the previous high number was in the 40s. In addition to this, the SWAT team spent the year supporting officers and detectives with specialized training and technology to make missions safer for citizens, officers, and suspects. The team also presented 29 SWAT presentations, including numerous demonstrations, school talks, active shooter talks, and business safety walkthroughs. As a team of 26 officers serving in various roles throughout the agency, the team demonstrates immense teamwork and initiative and focuses on using less lethal and de-escalation tactics, which truly supports the agency mission of making Fort Collins the safest community in the nation. For your commitment to our agency and the community, I am pleased to present the SWAT team with the Police Chief's Unit Commendation. Will Sergeant Austin Vigil and Officers Julia Chenoweth, Mark Glitnovich, Shane Kundle, Carly Garner, Rob Knabb, and Chris Wren please come up on stage? During April and May of 2018 and early 2019, Fort Collins experienced many calls from citizens involving a peeper. Due to the sexual and repetitive nature of these crimes, the Neighborhood Engagement Team, also known as NET, took it upon themselves to investigate these cases. NET members adjusted their hours, worked around the clock, and sacrificed time with their families to investigate these concerning crimes. After tireless efforts, a suspect was identified and taken into custody. Members of NET attended the suspect's bond hearing and eloquently addressed the court, resulting in a $200,000 cash-only bond for the suspect. NET's follow-up investigation linked the suspect to a home invasion and a sexual assault. Every member of NET played a critical role in the successful outcome of these cases. Fort Collins is a safer place due to their work, and countless citizens of Fort Collins will not be future victims of this suspect. For your tireless work and tenacity, I am pleased to present all of you with the Police Chief's Unit Commendation. I would now like to introduce Assistant Chief Kevin Cronin, who will be presenting the Criminal Investigation Division Awards.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Cronin. I'm the Assistant Chief over the Criminal Investigations Division. Could Dolores Garza please come up? Where is she? There she is. Dolores Garza has been employed with Fort Collins Police Services since 1971. Serving our agency and community for over 45 years. She currently works as the Fraud Investigation Specialist for Financial Crimes Unit. However, this title does not begin to describe the tremendous amount of work that Dolores routinely completes. Dolores talks to the victims of financial crimes nonstop, and I can attest to that. I don't know how she gets her energy. And personally interviews, either by phone or in person, every victim that reports fraud-related crimes to Fort Collins Police. Her reports are thorough, professional, and complete. She is the first line of reporting before cases are assigned to detectives. She often helps of financial crimes walk through the process of protecting themselves from further harm and offering various resources, even if it's case we don't end up investigating. She feels her customer service is personal, which I, again, absolutely agree with, and is often, in times, more in-depth than what most victims receive from other agencies. She investigates far more cases than what is collectively assigned to the Financial Crimes Unit detectives. So when you think about that, everything comes through Dolores first. When Dolores prepares for each detective, they are very thorough and complete with suspect information, criminal histories, pictures, and evidence, making it easy for detectives to immediately start working the case. Dolores, for your efforts and dedication to this agency, community, and victims, I am pleased to present with you the Commitment to Excellence Award. Okay, could Sergeant Jason Curtis, Officer Jacqueline Shaklee, and Siobhan Seymour please come up for their award? As they're coming up, I want to explain to you guys, we watch officers in their career, and one of the things that we watch for is those milestones that go along the way. When you see an officer or a detective or a dispatcher, a firefighter, a district attorney, when they see and they recognize that they can gather their resources and leverage that to further empower the victim, that's phenomenal. And so I want to tell you a little story about what they did. In August 2019, 3 detectives from our Crimes Against Persons unit came together for a very important trial. This case involved a young woman who was kidnapped and physically and sexually assaulted in a park, which occurred in 2013. The victim was left by the suspect to die, but was determined to live and survive the attack. Detective Siobhan Seymour was assigned the case, and after 4 years, they finally identified the suspect. When the case was brought to trial last August, the victim had support from 2 other victims who had gone through horrific but similar experiences. So these were past cases, past victims. During her time in the Crimes Against Persons unit, Detective Jacqueline Shaklee worked for the case of a young woman who was brutally assaulted and fought incredibly hard to survive and bring her assailant to justice. This woman provided instrumental support to the victim throughout the stresses of the trial and the criminal justice system. During his time in the unit, Detective and now Sergeant Jason Curtis also investigated a horrific case and developed a rapport with the victim, who went on to pursue a career as a prosecutor. This woman came to each day of the trial, and sat in support of the victim during her testimony. She has also helped countless other victims as a result of the relationship that was cultivated with Sergeant Curtis while he supported her through her case. These 3 detectives have created a strong community of survivors who are now strong enough to support each other in amazing ways. For their tireless work and dedication, I am pleased to present all of them with the Commitment to Excellence Award. Nice job. Okay, could Sergeant Jason Curtis stay up here? Detective Neal Haissam and FBI Special Agent Philip Jones. As they're coming up, we've had a recent partnership with the FBI where we're further attacking violent crime. It's been a great partnership, and I want to tell you a great story of what that partnership leveraged. In June of 2019, a young woman took a road trip to Colorado with her boyfriend. On her second night in Fort Collins, she was brutally beaten, tortured, and sexually assaulted. This took place over a course of 6 hours. During these hours, she had to fight for her life as her boyfriend tried to extinguish it. The next day, the boyfriend took the young woman to New Mexico, where he attempted to take his own life. Shortly thereafter, the victim was located by New Mexico authorities and transported to the hospital. At this point, Sergeant Jason Curtis, Detective Neal Haissam, and FBI Special Agent Philip Jones were assigned to the case and worked tirelessly to make sure the victim, who had life-threatening injuries, received justice. Detective Haissam processed the scene to collect all the physical evidence. Sergeant Curtis interviewed witnesses, and Agent Jones worked with his office at the FBI to coordinate all the resources they could provide. They worked as if this young woman was one of their own family members, and even went to visit the victim in her hometown across the country when she was recovering, to make sure that they could answer any questions she had regarding the case and its progress. Sergeant Curtis, Detective Haissam, and Agent Jones embody the values of Fort Collins Police Services, and I'm pleased to present them with the Commitment of Excellence Award. Okay, the last one. Could Officer Marty Shaw please come up to the stage? In 2002, defendant James Bachman was arrested on several charges related to sexual assault on a child. In 2004, while pending trial, he fled the United States and went to Switzerland, where he has dual citizenship. Mr. Bachman never returned to the United States, and the case was never tried. In late 2017, Lieutenant Christy Valesky, who worked the case in 2002, received information that Mr. Bachman may have recently visited Las Vegas, so she reached out to Detective Marty Shaw with the Criminal Impact Unit to see if he could locate Mr. Bachman. Detective Shaw was able to determine that Mr. Bachman never did return to the U.S. and that he only had family living in Nevada. Rather than stopping at that point, Detective Shaw did some online work and determined that while Mr. Bachman had relocated to Switzerland, he was doing quite a bit of travel around Europe and Asia. Detective Shaw worked with the U.S. Marshals in order to flag Mr. Bachman with Interpol for an Interpol Red Notice. In December of 2018, Mr. Bachman entered Thailand, and the notice was triggered. Before any action could be taken, Mr. Bachman left Thailand and went to the Philippines. Detective Shaw began working with the District Attorney's Office and other international organizations to obtain a provisional arrest warrant. Unfortunately, Mr. Bachman then flew to Indonesia before any action could be taken on the warrant. As he began what he believed was to be a trip back to Switzerland, Mr. Bachman stopped off in Qatar. He was detained there on notice. Detective Shaw then took this opportunity to quickly fly to Qatar. You were up all night, am I right? Not much sleep. And the government of Qatar to permit an extradition of Mr. Bachman back to the U.S. Although we did not have a formal extradition treaty, it was granted. In April of 2019, Detective Shaw returned to the United States with Mr. Bachman in his custody. Detective Shaw spent a tremendous amount of time providing the necessary documentation to complete the paperwork initially and hold and extradite Mr. Bachman back to the United States. The correspondence received to this end was often all hours of the night due to the time difference. He went above and beyond to ensure that a felony sex assault suspect who eluded the legal system for many reasons was brought back to face criminal charges. The victim, who is now an adult, along with his family, believe Mr. Bachman would have never been held accountable in the legal system if it weren't for Detective Shaw. For your hard work and tremendous efforts, I am pleased to present to you the Commitment of Excellence Award.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight as we celebrate our employees. We appreciate all of you being here. I would like Mark Lineweber, Jeff Willard, and Carol Workman to come to the stage, please. On November 13th, Fort Collins Police Services underwent a full uninterrupted power supply, or UPS, replacement. This was a massive project headed by Technical Projects Manager Mark Lineweber, Applications Manager Jeff Willard, and Communications Manager Carol Workman, who assisted in many different capacities. This project had many stakeholders and critical systems involved. From the very beginning, Mark, Jeff, and Carol worked diligently to ensure that all of our critical systems, including the dispatch center, would stay operational with little interruption. This required multiple meetings, several agreements, and discussion on logistics, and coming in very early, and that means 2:30 a.m. during a few days that week. Because of their work, this project had little, if no, impact on our agency operations. It went smoothly without one major outage or severe issue. This is a testament to all of the hard work put on by Mark, Jeff, and Carol to ensure that all the pieces of the puzzle were fitting together correctly and that communications were at an optimal point. For their work, I am pleased to present them with the Commitment to Excellence Award. All right, next one. Accepting an award today for Mariela Samara, I would like to have Dolores Garza come back to the stage, please. Dolores will be accepting this award on behalf of Mariela Samara. Mariela Samara worked for us as a police report representative from late 2001 until her retirement just recently on January 2nd. In her more than 18 years of service, in addition to her normal duties and records, she also provided Spanish translation for citizens who came into the building needing assistance. Sometimes she even stayed after her shift or stopped whatever she was working on to assist her coworkers from any of the unit agencies or anyone that asked. Mary Ellis also translated forms such as witness statements and complaint packets into Spanish so that the agency could provide citizens with documents that they would fully understand. Mary Ellis provided long-standing and excellent work in the records unit, and her absence will be surely felt by her peers. For her commitment to the agency and community, I am pleased to present Dolores with this Commitment to Excellence Award on behalf of Mary Ellis. All right, Dispatcher Tony Sparks, will you please join me on the stage? There's Tony. On the night of January 12th, 2018, Dispatcher Tony Sparks took a frantic 911 call from a frightened juvenile male. The juvenile stated that there was a disturbance at his home and shots were being fired. The suspect had destroyed the interior of the caller's house and then began actively shooting into the front of the residence while the informant and 5 other people were inside. The situation was rapidly escalating, and Tony was able to keep the male on the phone through the entire event to get vital information about the situation for incoming officers. The caller's mother was the intended target of the suspect, and she had become separated from the juvenile during the call. While on the phone with the suspect, Tony remained calm and professional, as always. He kept the caller's attention even when he began to panic after the suspect had grabbed his mother. Tony's level-headed demeanor kept the caller focused and engaged, even when he witnessed an officer use deadly force against the suspect. Tony's quick thinking, experience, and professionalism helped him gain vital information for officers and played a significant role in this tense situation. For your actions, Tony, I am pleased to present you with a Commitment to Excellence. I would now like to introduce Assistant District Attorney Mitch Murray and Deputy District Attorney Don Downs with the Laramie County District Attorney's Office to present an award.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Chief and Fort Collins Police Services for allowing us to be involved in this award ceremony. And I've got a few things I want to say, but I would ask Detective Christopher Tibbetts and DA Investigator Jared Ralston to come to the stage if they would for me, please. I'd also echo the Chief's words that there is great work being done every day by law enforcement personnel in this jurisdiction, but it is important sometimes to take the time to recognize some excellent work and celebrate that work. On behalf of the District Attorney's Office, I would just like to express to all the law enforcement personnel in this jurisdiction that we appreciate your professionalism and your commitment to the public safety and to improving the quality of life for everybody that lives here in this jurisdiction. So with that said, at this point in time, we're here to celebrate these two gentlemen. And I would go back to early 2018. We had a spat of crimes coming in from a group of individuals, 6 people, who were engaged in some gang-related type criminal enterprise activity that was causing a lot of problems. They were showing up on cases throughout our courtrooms. And as we looked at each individual crime, when isolated, the feeling was that we really couldn't have the proper impact. We couldn't do what we needed to do to address the harm they were causing our community and to protect the community. And I remember having a conversation with Don Downs, who is my co-counsel in this case, and I believe as our boss, Cliff Riedel, said, you know, that sounds like Colorado Organized Crime Control Act stuff. And with that, we began some additional work. And these two gentlemen, Detective Tibbetts and Investigator Ralston, they took the bull by the horns, and they went out and they were gathering information from all kinds of different sources. They were going to different law enforcement agencies. We were bringing things in on crimes that had been committed and we had defendants for, on crimes that we had no idea who did it, and even some crimes that we had no idea had even occurred. And through the work and dedication of these gentlemen, they were able to build the connections between those, find the roles of the different players in this criminal enterprise, and we were in fact able to put a Colorado Organized Crime Control Act case together addressing this gang-related criminal enterprise, and had a significant impact on them, and I believe did a great deal to protect our community. So if I could read from this letter, please. Without Detective Tibbetts and Investigator Ralston's in-depth knowledge of this criminal organization, as well as a review of literally thousands of pages of documents, hours of interviews, and continuous follow-up, the prosecution of this case would not have been possible. Their ability to organize, analyze, and recall the facts and evidence in this case was beyond reproach. This was the first gang-related case prosecuted under Colorado Organized Crime Control Act in Laramie County. Because of Detective Tibbetts and Investigator Ralston's tireless work and collaborative effort, they put together a solid case which resulted in 18 felony convictions against the 6 defendants for a total of 90 years in sentences, effectively putting a stop to this group's reign of violent and fraudulent behavior in our community. We would like to recognize Fort Collins Police Service's Detective Christopher Tibbetts and District Attorney Investigator Jared Ralston for their outstanding work on this case.
Okay, and we are going to move on to the medals portion. Would Officer Kevin Alexander and Andy Ferraro please join me on stage? In October, Officer Andy Ferraro and Kevin Alexander responded to a medical call of an unresponsive male who was not breathing. Once officers arrived, they found the patient who was suffering from a deadly reaction to a recent medical procedure. Officer Ferraro and Officer Alexander worked as a team to perform CPR for several minutes until paramedics arrived. As paramedics took over CPR, Officer Alexander continued to assist with the bag mask to facilitate respiration. Emergency room staff commented that due to their quick actions and their performance of the CPR, this patient's life was saved. For your actions, I'm pleased to present you both with the Medal of Merit. I would ask Ryan Barish to please come to the stage. On March 11, 2019, Officer Ryan Barish responded to a medical call at the Fort Collins movie theater. The initial report was that someone inside one of the theaters was not breathing. When Officer Barish arrived on scene, he was directed into the theater and found an elderly man lying unconscious on the ground. A citizen was attempting CPR, and a nurse who was in the theater was monitoring for life signs. Officer Barish took over CPR. Approximately 1 minute after arriving on scene and continuing CPR for another 1.5 minutes. At this time, the male regained his pulse. Medics took over life-saving efforts upon their arrival, and the male was transported to the hospital, and he survived. For your critical role in saving this man's life, I'm pleased to present you with the Medal of Merit. Yes, stay right there, Ryan. Then, on May 5th, Officer Ryan Barish responded to a report of a male party who was found pulseless in the bathroom of a home. Upon arrival, the patient was found slumped over holding a needle and syringe. Officer Barish quickly moved the patient out of the bedroom and checked for signs of life. The patient did not have a pulse and was not breathing. Officer Barish administered Narcan and started chest compressions. Poudre Fire Authority arrived a short time after and set up automated external defibrillators on the patient. After about 2 minutes of CPR, the patient regained a pulse and started to breathe on his own. After another 4 minutes, he was talking. Officer Barish, for your life-saving actions, I am pleased to present you with a Medal of Merit. I would now ask Scott Brittingham to please join me on stage. On the evening of December 17th, Officer Brittingham was on his way home when he heard dispatch air over the radio that there was a cardiac medical call very close to where he was. A middle-aged male had fallen down the stairs and was not breathing. Immediately upon Officer Brittingham's rush to the scene and found the male victim's wife attempting CPR at the bottom of the basement stairway. Officer Brittingham took over CPR and continued for several minutes until he was relieved by paramedics. The male was revived and transported to the hospital for treatment. Unfortunately, he later passed away of his injuries. Officer Brittingham's quick response and immediate application of CPR played a critical role in offering the male the best chance of survival, and he should be commended for his actions. For this, I am pleased to present you with the Medal of Merit. Now, would Megan Barberos please join me on stage? On September 13, dispatcher Megan Barberos answered a 911 call from a Navy veteran who told her he was going to take his own life. Her skills and training immediately kicked into actions, and she began working to keep the caller from hurting himself. During the 15-minute phone call, Megan's genuine compassion and sincere empathy for the caller was evident. When he was upset about not having anywhere to stay, she offered to personally make hotel reservations for him. She used her own experiences to relate to him and offered multiple alternatives to him. She was able to keep the man on the phone until officers arrived and assured him that the officers responding were also veterans. She encouraged the man to go to the front door so they could help him. And because of the rapport she created, he complied and went to the front door to let the officers in. As he exited the house, you could hear him talking to officers about Megan and acknowledging their army pins. Corporal Mike Langley said following this case, "After my 30 years on the job, I have never experienced a suicidal subject that was so happy to come out and talk to the police. I base this solely on the outstanding job Megan did on this call. You could literally see hope in this man's face and relief in his eyes. It was obvious Megan had made him feel worthwhile. And again, he was talking with a lifted voice and was willing to seek help and asked for assistance. This was not a cry for help. This was not attention-seeking behavior. This man that would have died alone, frustrated and hopeless. Megan, your efforts are truly amazing, and for this, I'm proud to present you with the Medal of Merit. Will Officer Will Barberos please join me on stage? On September 11th, Officer Barberos responded to a medical call. The informant reported that her adult daughter was in the passenger seat of her car and she had stopped breathing. The informant had already begun CPR on the side of the road when Officer Barberos arrived. Officer Barberos took over CPR, and after a short while, the patient began breathing again. After other officers arrived on scene, Officer Barberos then consoled the mother, who was understandably extremely emotional during this situation. Officer Barberos, for your life-saving efforts, I am pleased to present you with the Medal of Merit. Would Corporal Randy Clamser please join me on stage? On November 15th, officers were dispatched to a train versus pedestrian accident. Reports indicated that the pedestrian was likely deceased due to the severity of their injuries. Corporal Randy Clamser was one of the first officers to arrive on scene and rode in the ambulance to assist paramedics with providing life-saving treatment to the injured party. Corporal Clamser went above and beyond the call of duty and almost against unsurmountable odds, and the injured pedestrian survived. Corporal Clamser's nominator, Sergeant Austin Vigil, stated that without his actions, this injured pedestrian would likely have not lived. For your life-saving efforts, I'm pleased to present you, Randy, with the Medal of Merit. Officer Dolly Nab and Matt Taibbi, please join me on stage. On August 9th, officers responded to the report of a person stabbed near the center of town. Officers Dolly Nab and Matt Taibbi were two of the first officers on scene. Upon arrival, they recognized that the victim had several significant stab wounds to his abdomen. They both acted quickly and began packing the victim's stab wounds with combat gauze and continued to give first aid until medics arrived. The victim was transported to the hospital and survived his injuries. UC Health Captain Mike Bielmeyer advised that Officer Nab and Officer Taibbi's quick actions and proper application of combat gauze likely saved this man's life. For your exemplary efforts, I'm pleased to present you both with the Medal of Merit. You know, for this one, I'd like to have Corporal Andy Leslie come on stage, and if John Woodburn wouldn't mind coming up as well. On September 15th, Corporal Andy Leslie was on his lunch break in his neighborhood when dispatch aired a nearby medical of a man unconscious and not breathing. Being in the area, Corporal Leslie immediately responded and arrived on the scene moments later, several minutes before paramedics. Corporal Leslie found himself in a chaotic situation with several frantic people trying to provide aid to the man who had collapsed. He determined the man was in full cardiac arrest and not breathing. He then began to give CPR and gave directions to those present to help them calm down and assist once the medics arrived. He continued giving CPR until the medics arrived and took over. The man survived and continues to recover. Corporal Leslie received the following in a message from the man's daughter. Just wanted to say thank you, even though it doesn't seem like enough, and to let you know that your quick response saved my dad's life. Unbelievable. Any other situation, he would have been gone. Thank you for dropping your lunch and running over. I would also like to point out that John, the patient from the story, is standing next to Andy right now. Thank you, John, for flying in from Florida to recognize Corporal Andy Leslie. Corporal Leslie, for your life-saving efforts, I am pleased to present you with the Medal of Merit. Would Officer Dexter Rowe please join me on stage? On July 14th, Officer Dexter Rowe was volunteering at Chili's restaurant for a Tip-A-Cop event, which benefits the Special Olympics. During the event, records manager Lisa Robles, who was also volunteering, saw a customer clearly in distress, choking on food and changing colors. Lisa notified Officer Rowe, cleared everyone out of the way, and directed Chili staff to call 911. Officer Rowe came running from another area of the restaurant and quickly administered a Heimlich maneuver, picking the man off the floor. After several attempts, the man's airway was partially cleared, allowing him limited ability to breathe. Moving him out of the sight of other customers, Officer Rowe saw he was still in distress and, with the man's agreement, applied the maneuver again, dislodging the obstruction completely. By the time the paramedics arrived, the man was doing well and able to express to the paramedics how grateful he was. For your life-saving efforts, Dexter, I am pleased to present you with the Medal of Merit. Will R.J. Tuttle please join me on stage? In May, a citizen was walking his bike through a local park and observed an older male fall from his bike. The citizen checked on the male and found he wasn't breathing and began CPR and yelled for other people in the area to call 911. Officer Tuttle arrived on the scene and quickly ran toward the victim, taking over CPR compressions. Officer Tuttle continued to give CPR as he gave location information to incoming medical crews. Thanks to the successful CPR efforts of Officer Tuttle and the citizens, the man was alert and able to hold conversations with staff upon arrival at the hospital. Poudre Fire Authority said the immediate CPR started by the citizen and continued by Officer Tuttle likely saved the man's life. For this, I am pleased to present you, RJ, with the Medal of Merit. Would Officer Keith Hunter please join me on stage? On the night of January 12, 2019, officers were dispatched to an active disturbance with shots fired. A male juvenile caller reported that his stepfather had destroyed their house and was now outside in the front yard shooting into the house. 6 people were reported to be inside, including the caller. A second 911 call was received by dispatch from a female inside the house. It stated the male was shooting at them and then said, "Oh my God, he's coming in. I need you here now." Officer Keith Hunter was on a traffic stop nearby and drove to the location of the disturbance. He arrived in just 6 seconds and saw a female running down the street and a male behind her. He appeared to be chasing her. As Officer Hunter was exiting his vehicle, the male caught the female and grabbed her from behind. Officer Hunter began giving the male commands and heard him fire a gunshot as the female fell to the ground. The male fired another shot as Officer Hunter continued rushing toward the pair. Officer Hunter then fired 4 rounds from his service weapon as the male fell to the ground. Immediately, Officer Hunter rushed to the female to render aid, thinking she had been shot. Luckily, she was not injured. Officer Hunter stayed with the victim and tried to calm the rest of the citizens in the area as other officers arrived on the scene. Officer Hunter showed extreme courage and placed his life at risk by running towards an armed man who was assaulting and probably trying to kill the female victim. He returned fire on what he believed were shots to either the victim or himself, and then immediately went to her side to render aid. Officer Hunter, for your courageous, selfless, and commendable acts, I am proud to present you with the Medal of Air. All right, we have now moved on to the final portion, which is the Of the Year awards. As you know, well, as many of you probably know, last year we started these last year, and we are going to continue these on. We actually added 2 extra ones this year. The first one is the Volunteer of the Year. You know, I try to sometimes read these to be coy leading up to them, but sometimes, as you say, when somebody was hired or he or she, people start getting excited, looking for family, and then they're like, oh, it wasn't me or something. So I have decided I'm going to announce the winners and then talk about them as they come up. So as we talked about before, and as you heard, a lot of work needs to be done in the community. I mean, in any community, especially the size of Fort Collins, everything can't be expected to be by the police department, by the fire department, by the city council members, by the district attorney. It's all of us. It's members in the community who come forward when other people need help, as you've just seen. The officers, the paramedics, the rest of us professional staff will be there, but many times citizens need to step up immediately and help out. And along the lines of helping out, stepping up, is we have volunteers within our organization who, again, fill such a needed gap. There's so much work to be done, and just like any organization, you don't always have all the people you need to do all the jobs that need to be there. And so we rely on volunteers. And there's one volunteer who, when we asked for recommendations for the Volunteer of the Year, his name kept coming up over and over again. And because of that, I would like to ask Robert Hippler, please come forward as the Volunteer of the Year. Robert thinks he's here to help out, as he helps out all the other times. And just a little bit about Robert. After a successful career with John Deere in the IT department, we now rely heavily on Robert. In fact, Robert is our volunteer coordinator. Robert has been with us since 2013. He is described as hardworking and friendly and a true, quoting, master of the spreadsheet. Robert has been described as one of the happiest people you will ever meet and always has a smile on his face. And I will add, he works with Jared Kinsman, so that even is another level, that the fact that he is continuing to smile every day. Robert works at our District 1 station and also at headquarters. Robert has an impact on everyone he encounters. This is a quoting from the nomination. His work ethic, commitment to the organization and the community, his positive attitude, his compassion, and his heart make him certainly deserving as our first ever Volunteer of the Year, Robert Hippler. So, each one of these award winners have to say a little something, is the other side of it. So, Robert, would you just mind saying a few words?
Both D1, District 1, and the headquarters, I work with a fantastic group of both civilian and law enforcement officers. So to me, it's a privilege to work with them. And for those officers that are D1, I support the marijuana enforcement officer and the alcohol enforcement officer. And my philosophy is that every hour that I can volunteer gives them an hour to do the work that they're charged to do. Thank you.
The next award is for Rookie of the Year. We get members from other organizations every time we do a testing process, and we've decided that, and they would agree, they are not true rookies. So the Rookie of the Year are people within 2 years of being hired, because a big part of that is the academy, in-house academy, and it's their first time being a police officer. I'm very proud today to recognize that the Rookie of the Year for 2019 is Brady Staggers. As Brady is coming forward, Brady has been identified as someone who is a true team player, someone who is always finding ways to take more calls for service whenever he can to help his teammates. Brady's also being recognized due to his attitude and how he's routinely asking for advice and learning from others. After calls for service, Brady seeks input from others on how he could have handled the call better. In a profession that is all about serving others, I'm especially proud of the way Brady treats people, how he talks to people, and his preparation for this job. In a letter from Laramie County's one of the assistant district attorneys stated, Officer Staggers was incredibly well prepared during his testimony. I was blown away at how poised he was. I cannot recall an officer who's been so composed during their first time testifying since Greg Yeager. No, he didn't say that. The nominations came in for many of our brand new recruits and our new police officers. And again, from his frontline supervisors, and the other side that I thought was really cool was his coworkers. Even some other new officers recognized that Brady was a leader, and the manner in which he carried out his duties are truly commendable. And hopefully, are family member here? They are. Family members that we just notified flew in from Ohio. Did you see him before you came up? Your family is all here, Brady. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think, honestly, I have to give credit to my FTOs. I mean, they taught me how to do this job, and they taught me how to do it well, and I think I work with one of the best teams, especially late week nights. I think it's definitely something that's helped me get this award, so thank you guys a lot.
And I bet if we made every single person who got an award tonight, every officer that was up here, they too would thank their FTOs. We have an amazing group of field training officers that if we could give an award every year, they would certainly be deserving, because I believe that's the secret sauce in any organization, the people who take brand new people and turn them into, we hire amazing people and we turn them into great cops, and our FTOs are just the reason we have such an amazing department, a big reason why. And now I'd like to go into the Civilian of the Year. This one I would also give away if I said the year that she was hired. So before I do that, would Dolores Garza please come forward for Civilian of the Year? As you heard earlier, Dolores has been with our organization since 1973. Dolores is assigned to our financial crimes unit and is described as caring, diligent, competent, and most of all, an example of who we want to be and extreme customer service. An example of this was during a recent snowstorm. Dolores had a meeting set with an 82-year-old fraud victim. But because Dolores did not want the victim to drive to the station, Dolores took the case to the victim. A seemingly small act, but one that exemplifies the type of person and worker Dolores Garza is. She cares, and she realizes how she interacts with the victims can make all the difference in the world with someone. And she has done this since her very first day. This isn't just, it was a great year. She's been doing this for decades. Dolores, well, good you're here. I didn't hear you. You came up quietly. I'm like, did she leave? She was here earlier. Dolores, because of the manner in which you perform your duties and the way you treat everyone that you encounter, I'm happy to award you with the Civilian of the Year.
You cannot imagine how 365 days of a year, and times that since the early 70s, that every day you're committed to the people you serve, your own family, my brothers and sisters, my parents, knowing that I was born and raised here and this is where I belong and this is where my roots are. I'm very honored by this because it really is a whole career and a whole lifetime of good work. And I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm exactly doing what I want to do. And that to me is the really true recipe about really enjoying what you do and have the ability to do it well. So for all the young people that are here, look what you have in front of you. It is what you make it. Thank you.
And now we're going to give the Officer of the Year award. And it is my pleasure to award the Officer of the Year to Officer Kyle Duncan. Please come forward. Some of the things that were said in his write-up, it has been said that Kyle is a walking database. Whenever detectives are looking for someone, Kyle is told because he knows they will find him. He will find him. He knows the business owners and the workers in Old Town. Kyle lives the idea of community policing and the philosophy of community policing. He knows without the public support, without the partnerships we form, we fail as a police department. He's a problem solver, and again, he is a team player. He will take on any role in a team just so that the team can be successful. Kyle is a role model and should be looked to as a walking example of what a police officer should be. It is for these reasons and many more that I'm proud to give the award of Officer of the Year to Officer Kyle Duncan.
I have to say that Nick Rogers should be up here with me because there's not much that I do that he's not involved with. So my mother recently found a report card of mine from when I was in kindergarten, and it said something to the effect of, "Kyle can't sit on the rug." So my inability to sit still has served me well in this agency. Completely humbled. It's a true statement that God can make everything good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
One of the new awards this year, it was the Detective of the Year. Obviously, detectives are still police officers and fall in that line, but with such a big department and you hear about the amazing work that goes on daily, we thought it was another way to identify a different type of work. And so we came up with Chief Tim Duran came up with the idea of a Detective of the Year. And so the first ever winner of the Detective of the Year is Neal Haissam. Neal has been with Fort Collins Police Services since 1993. He's been in investigations multiple times since 1998. Neal has been with our Forensic Crimes Unit since 2012. Neal has been described as a leader, mentor, and role model. Obviously, those terms are not exclusive. To be one, you need to be the other. In the world of CSI, crime scene investigations, evidence, there is no room for error. Being precise matters. Neal has a work ethic that is unmatched. His reputation precedes him. Everyone knows about Neal and the work that he does. He is what excellence looks like. He is the one, as I mentioned earlier, created the idea of a high-caliber culture. Again, more ways to recognize other people. He has been the founding member of our evidence response team, an idea that there were so many talented people in our professional staff that would like to do more and get involved in more. And Neal drove this idea of giving them opportunities to go out on crime scenes. In closing, I want to just give a quote, actually a couple sentences here from the nomination form. I can only say that Neal Haissam is the type of employee, partner, mentor, subordinate, leader, and friend that everyone hopes to have. These types of people are few and far between, but you feel blessed when you have the opportunity to be around a person like Neal Haissam and be influenced by them. In an organization that is full of exceptional performers, to stand out of the crowd is something truly special. Detective Neal Haissam is something special. Day after day, Neal Haissam is excellence and is special. Please join me in congratulating Detective of the Year, Neal Haissam.
Well, normally I have a gift to gab, but I am very humbled and very honored. I just want to say thank you. Every day I get to come to work, and I get to work with some of the most gifted people I know. Their dedication to this community and the victims is truly amazing, and I try every day to do the best I can to support them in what they do. They really do amazing work. They always work for the victims. So to be up here and have this, I am very honored. Thank you very much.
We have 2 more awards. The next one is on the civilian side of the house, the Supervisor of the Year. Again, many times it's police officers are the ones that you see, and when someone calls 911, the ones that come rushing to the door or to the scene. But the people behind the scenes, the professional staff that works, is really the oil that keeps that machine going. And we have so many people who were also nominated for this and deserve this recognition. But for 2019, if I could be joined by the Civilian Supervisor of the Year, Lisa Robles. There were multiple nominations for Lisa, and so picking off a few of them. Lisa was hired January of 97, promoted in 99, and then was ultimately promoted to manager in 2015. It's been said that Lisa's probably ushering in more change than any member of Fort Collins Police Services, which makes her not real popular right now. So, from ways to make our reports speed up the time that we can get information out to the community, speed up time for supervisors to be able to deploy our resources, from our evidence software and our efficiency in handling evidence, getting it to the district attorney's office, many ways behind the scenes, Lisa is touching our organization and making us better. Even while being a part of so much change, Lisa keeps a can-do attitude. She is always trying to make us better. Lisa also is creating an environment in records where people are having fun. From decorations to a coffee cart that shows up in there, ideas about making people in our records department feel to be a part of the organization. Many ideas have been coming forward to have more people stop in and visit our records department. For all the changes Lisa has been a part of, to the manner in which you carry out your duties, Lisa, to your smile in the midst of those busy days and those long meetings, it is my pleasure to award you, Lisa Robles, as the Civilian Supervisor of the Year.
Chief is giving me a hard time because he knows I love public speaking. I don't even know what to say. I am just I'm shocked. I'm at a loss for words, but I want to thank my 2 teams, my evidence unit and my records unit. We have gone through a lot of changes this past year, and none of it would be possible without my employees. And so they're an amazing group, and I have some amazing supervisors that are well deserving of this award as well. But it's really my 2 units that are doing all the work. So I just want to do a shout out to my husband. Without his support, it's the long hours and working weekends, nights, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to try to answer emails, and he's my rock. So thank you. Appreciate it.
And thanks to Charlie, your husband, for his ability to keep a secret too. So thank you, Charlie, being able to get her here. And the final award of the night is for the Supervisor of the Year. And it is my pleasure to give the award for 2019 Supervisor of the Year to Sergeant Joel Tower. Joel was hired in March of 1989. He served twice as the Personnel and Training Unit Sergeant, his first rotation for 7 years, starting in 2000. After a time as Patrol Sergeant, the SRO Sergeant, and the Traffic Sergeant, Joel returned to Personnel and Training in 2015. Professionalized and managed the growth of the team from a sergeant and 1 officer to 1 sergeant, 4 officers, an admin, and a civilian background investigator. Personally involved, and one of the things, again, this goes back to as well, working on our FTO program and working with our FTOs and bringing in, last year we brought in, started with 14 people in one of the 4-month segments. And that was a strain on the organization. Again, thanks to the whole organization and especially our FTOs and our training unit, and that was Joel that was able to get that through. Personally involved in welcoming and utilizing volunteers from Foothills Gateways, allowing to invest back in the community. Managed significant 2019 hiring process that I just mentioned. Played major part in proposing and launching the new police academy that is underway and we will be in next year. That's the in-house academy, and then also the regional training center. And again, revamping our FTO program. One of the things I think is really interesting about our whole entire training unit, and again, Joel will probably give credit to others, but it's just their philosophy. And I had a chance this last weekend to meet with some of our officers. We had 25 people come in from other states who wanted to join Fort Collins Police Services. And so we do, we kind of knock down the amount of time it takes to get through the whole process. And as they were there, what I kept hearing over and over again is, good people have a bad day. Good people don't always do really well on a test. And know that if you want to be a Fort Collins Police Service officer, we're going to work with you. And regardless how this test works out, we want to stay in touch with you. We want to help you get better, and we will be right there with you. That's not normal. A lot of places are numbers, and if you don't make the cut, maybe we see you next time, maybe we don't. But just the attitude and the demeanor of our training division just says so much, and units operate based on a lot of how the leader carries himself. Reading from Joel's nomination, Joel has been in and out of our training unit for over 20 years. He is the gold standard of what a sergeant in this assignment looks like. Joel, over his career, has hired and trained over 100 officers and has been responsible for leading the teams who have created our agency's standards. These standards have been the bedrock of our agency's culture and performance. 2019 was only a minor reflection of the so many years Joel has put forth the effort required to properly staff our agency with people with the highest character and abilities. In addition, Joel puts in extra effort to be with the Citizens Academy, FTO, defensive tactics, and much more. He is humble to the core and has quietly gone about his business of hiring and training so many great police officers and making Fort Collins a great place to live and an amazing place to work. There is no doubt we would not be the department we are without Joel Tower. And for that reason and so many more, I'm excited to give the Supervisor of the Year to Joel Tower.
Wow, I guess. There are a ton of different supervisors in here that are probably much more deserving of this than I am, but I do appreciate it. I have had a great team, and they're the ones that actually get the credit for this. They make my job very easy, so I appreciate the guys of the training unit and everybody for being here tonight. Thank you very much.
So in closing, I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight. As you can see, we have just amazing work that goes on a daily basis, and not just by members inside the organization, but by our community and by all of our partners, many who are here tonight. I want to thank the awards board for also putting on this event. Again, having a packed house, having amazing food here, and again, just the amount of people that are showing up to show support for one another just says so much. You know, the other night I was able to watch the State of the City, and I see the city managers here and the mayor are part of it. And if you want to see a video, I'm sure it's online by now, but I was there live, and there's a great video of it. It's part of the presentation, kind of a day in the life of living in Fort Collins. And I would encourage everyone to go on and look at it. It's just amazing that not just the police department, we're part of a bigger organization, the city, which obviously is an important part, but still only a part of the community. And the video just shows all the work that's going on to make this an amazing place. I mean, obviously there's all kinds of awards that this city gets, but cities are nothing but pieces of land, and it's the people who end up putting their mark on it and making it what it is. And as you look around this room, or that night, or other nights around this community, there are just good people trying to make this amazing place even better. And so I really want to say one of the things that was mentioned that night as well was we hear this, we want to be a world-class city, we want to be the safest city in the country. And that's true. It's a big goal, but I believe with the partnerships we have, the people we hire, how we train people, how we equip them, the support we have in the community, we can absolutely do that. But also need to remember, though, is it the safest city for every single person? Is it a world-class city for every single member of this community? And I think all of us would probably say no. There are some people who, whether given a bad hand in life, whatever circumstances brought them to a place where it's not a world-class city because they see a different city than maybe we see. And so I would just encourage every one of us who have opportunities, I call them opportunities to come across. You heard Nick Rogers getting socks for somebody. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where the rubber meets the road. And so I would just encourage every one of us to make sure that on our daily lives, we see things that maybe we normally wouldn't see. We look around and look to see where we can add value and add help to make sure that maybe in a few years, every single person, again, a lofty goal, but still love stretch goals like that, where every person, no matter where they find themselves, would say, this is a world-class city for me too. This is a safest city for me too. And I think I would leave everybody with that. Can we just get one more round of applause for all the people who got awards tonight? Wish everyone safe travels on their way home tonight. And again, we really appreciate you being here. Have a great night.